Good morning, good afternoon, and hello. Yes, we've been just working through the morning, Robert, getting up in the middle of the night. We've got, the very latest here, and I'm meteorologist Mike Prangley, of course, here in Tampa, St. Pete, and meteorologist Robert Speta in Jacksonville and the St. Augustine area up into southeast Georgia. Good to have you, Robert.
Always happy to be here with you, Mike. It's always a pleasure to work with you, even though you're on the other side of the state now. We're talking some tropics out here. Me and you in the studio have covered hurricanes in the past. And let's get to it. We got another one to cover out here.
Yeah,
Cat 5 now.
Yeah, so this is what we're doing here. We're going to update the information as it comes in. And earlier, we broke the news here on our streaming show at 11 a.m., just about, I think, 11:20 to be exact, when it actually, Erin, became a Cat 5 hurricane. And now here at the 2 o'clock update, the new numbers are in. It looks like it's holding more steady. It was just explosively intensifying earlier, but still at 160 mile per hour winds, moving west at 16. Pressure at 915 millibars, 110 miles north of Anguilla. And as we take a look and head over to the wall here, we're taking a look at the best news of all. It's a monster storm that is missing the islands. No direct hits expected for Puerto Rico and areas of the Windward, Leeward Islands here. In fact, up about 100 miles to the north. And if what's happening in the islands, if anything, is the smaller size of this. You've got the hurricane force winds about 35 miles or so from the center, tropical storm force winds of about 140 mile per hour out. But what has made this system strong is this pinhole eye here that has really allowed it to wind up here. It's like a speed skater bringing in the arms in, and we've got the angular momentum, the conservation taking place in the atmosphere, and that air is actually really responding to, yes, the incredible rising updrafts of the storm, and it's trying to fill, and that wind's just speeding up around that eye. So as we look at the latest data here as of 2 o'clock, still moving west at 16, and as Robert and I have been talking about, until we see that turn, we never say never, but everything is still in very good agreement that it will. But I'll feel better once we see that west wind turn, and then we'll see it more to the north and eventually north-northeast as we head into next week. But notice just a powerful hurricane as it moves and skirts just to the east and north of the Bahamas here. Even as we go into Tuesday, I wouldn't be surprised to see this hold together as a Category 5 into early next week, a little longer than you see here. You can see Hurricane Center bringing it to about 155 mile per hour winds by 8 o'clock Sunday, 140 by Tuesday. And I'm going to give you time to think about this. We usually like to include a little trivia question. Erin is the first Cat 5 hurricane in August since, it's been a while. All right, first Cat 5 and hurricane since, I'll let you think about it. But what we've been watching here is this rapid intensification, okay? So notice 24 hours ago, 75 mile per hour winds, up to 160 now. So we more than doubled the criteria needed. Usually it's 35 miles per hour in 24 hours. So it's that unbelievably warm water running 2 to 4 degrees above average, lower wind shear. It's out of the Saharan dust, and look at the pressure down to 915 millibars. That's a sign of the intensity of the storm. 993 yesterday. Notice we've gone from a Category 1 to a Category 5. So Robert, scientifically, I think this is going to be one for the books for sure. What are your thoughts? Just an amazing thing to look at this morning as we woke up, got out of bed in the middle of the night, and you and I were both just mesmerized as this thing just got stronger and stronger, and you saw that little pinhole eye there, right?
I mean, I went to bed around 9 o'clock last night, and it was not quite a major hurricane. It was expected to become one, and it just over the course of about 8 hours, the bottom dropped out on this thing. And you're right, just a little bit of surprise, because we all expected to become a major, but sometime this weekend. But it just tightened up really quick, and that rapid intensification, dare I say, explosive intensification. I mean, double of what the technical definition is of it. And just look at the satellite picture. This is impressive. It is, and I say impressive in the sense, and please don't take my words out of context for all of our viewers. And I understand most people watching this understand. No one's happy about a Cat 5 out there, all right? We are happy that it is not directly, in that inner core is not directing any land areas. But, looking at this is a classic textbook buzzsaw shape, good outflow aloft. Inner core, the eye wall is being picked up on radar out of the Leeward Islands where they have tropical storm warnings in place right now. it is definitely, or excuse me, tropical storm watches, I should say, in place right now. It is definitely your classic textbook Cat 5 storm. And from the last update, I mean, the wind speed stayed the same, but it did go down 2 millibars to 915. And I saw a hurricane hunter pass here not that long ago. I got to double check it. I think it got down even lower than that out here, Mike. So we're seeing that the pressure is still dropping. It is still strengthening. We're not going through an eye wall replacement cycle right now. When that happens, you might see a little bit of weakening, but you'll start to see that if we see two kind of eye walls begin to form up in that center of storm. But from a objective meteorological standpoint, this is definitely a very powerful and impressive storm system. And you got to thank your lucky stars that it's not rolling directly over any of these islands out here today, Mike.
Oh my goodness, for sure. In fact, I'm looking at some of the latest graphics here, and a lot of folks are, you were talking about some of the islands there, and as we take a look here, we officially have, I found one place, you know, the U.S. British Virgin Islands. U.S. Virgin Islands right now don't have any official warnings, but the British Virgin Islands do at a little island called Settlement. So you see that little blue area. So there's our tropical storm warning. Otherwise, really feeling very blessed to be in the islands because, again, keeping those highest winds to the north, and it's a very compact system. So, again, I know a lot of folks have family, friends in Puerto Rico and San Juan. Back into the U.S., British and Virgin Islands here. We're talking about some good news, at least for the islands, but bad news is there will be some possible flash flooding and some very heavy rain heading their way. As we look at the overall setup, confidence that this will recurve as we head into next week. That turn won't happen officially until Monday. In fact, as we take a look here, we're talking about a lower wind shear that allowed this thing to become really a monster. And then as we take a look, it also outran all that Saharan dust that was really kind of keeping it at bay there, and you can see the big shield of dust staying off to its east as it does that recurve, and you can see the latest UCMET models maybe trending a little farther north before it turns a little bit farther to the east, but the models have been in very good agreement, and we were talking about this earlier, Robert, that that cone history has been very good, and you can't get much better than this scientifically. The big thing that of course we're going to be working on is this rapid intensification. I mean, we're seeing storms that are just ramping up like never before, and none of the models I could find had it increasing 85 miles per hour over 24 hours. So again, lucky we don't have any direct impacts expected in the island nations, and that includes Bermuda as it splits between Bermuda and the United States. And then as it heads off to the north, we'll watch maybe for a strong post-tropical cyclone, maybe by the time it gets to Iceland. But overall, as we look at the models, feeling very lucky here for our folks in the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico. You see the forecast storm winds here. Again, talking about that compactness of the system, but as this continues to roll off to the west and make that turn more to the west, northwest, and the north next week, again, we're keeping even the highest wind gusts away from the islands of the Bahamas, okay, the Turks and Caicos. And the big thing we're watching now for the East Coast would be, you've guessed it, yeah, the rip currents, the deadly rip currents. And we got to watch that wind flow very carefully. In fact, you can see the latest wave heights. I've been pushing these up, and it does look like we're already starting to see a groundswell reaching the Florida coast as early as this afternoon along that east coast of Florida. And then watch the waves here. We got 2 to 3 foot sets coming in Monday afternoon, and these models continue to just increase it. Okay, so we got 5 to 8, 7 to 8 foot surf as you head from St. Simons, Jekyll Island, all the way back down to St. Augustine, and even toward the areas of Cape Canaveral, maybe some 9, 10 foot sets, and then of course up toward Cape Hatteras, some larger wave and swells there. So Robert, the big story for the east coast of Florida will be big impacts. In fact, you issued that weather impact alert next week, of course, for the dangerous seas, surf, and those deadly rip currents, right?
Yeah, you know, the rip currents being the big one. And my worry is that we actually backed off the rainfall chances here into the Jacksonville area. And same thing over towards Tampa and really most of the state of Florida. Today we are getting storms, by the way. We have some pretty strong storms setting up all across the first coast. But the rainfall chances are going to come down as this gets closer. And the reason is for that a little bit of downward movement on the outside of the storm subsidence is what we call it. But the thing is, even though the weather might seem nice, you're going to have some powerful waves out there. You're going to have that onshore flow. And you can see the wind flow on Sunday and the Monday. See those wind kind of streamlines coming in from the northeast? It is over a wide area there. And all of that is going to start to push the water up on shore. So with that, you're going to cause a pretty decent rip current, a pretty decent littoral current. You're also going to be having some beach erosion at high tides. Next week, we are approaching a new moon. So got that spring tide starting to build in. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get a little bit of minor beach erosion and minor tidal flooding. Am I expecting Irma type flooding? No. Absolutely not. No one is saying that. But if you are in some of these tidal plains that flood during like king tides, for example, you're probably going to be looking at some impacts there. That is kind of the big thing. But I think the number one thing, and it is, rip currents are, it always feels like second nature because most people don't get into the water, but it is, it's one of the deadliest weather phenomena, believe it or not, in the state of Florida is rip currents. Time and time, people drown, and it's just, especially on days like Monday, Tuesday, where it is not going to be raining out there, but you're still going to be looking at those dangerous rips. So make sure you're definitely being aware there. You know where to spot it. If you swim near a lifeguard, they'll tell you where to spot it if you can't see it from the ground just like this. And you know what the other issue is? A lot of times rip currents, it's actually where the water is kind of flat from your point of view. And if you don't know what you're looking at, you might think it's calm, but it's actually because that flow is pushing out and knocking those waves down, and it looks kind of calm out there. So I think on the first coast, the rips are going to be the big issue, the chance of beach erosion. Mike, so
yes.
Erin is the first Cat 5 hurricane in August since what? Please tell me.
Okay, it may have flashed on the screen. You know, I was getting it ready, buddy. And we take a look. It's since 2009. It was Hurricane Dean, so it's been a long time since we've seen that. Isn't that amazing? I can't believe it's been so long, actually. How about you?
I'm actually a little bit flabbergasted.
Yeah.
I will admit I didn't know that, but because Barrow was in June, I guess Milton last year and Helene.
But
did Helene
these,
make Cat 5? But
yeah,
those
August.
were in September and November.
Yeah.
So it's been a bit.
It's because it's August. Yeah, big difference. So as we look at the big three, I put together more stats. You know, you and I love our stats here. So let's look at the big three.
Yeah.
So earliest Cat 5, not in the Gulf and the Caribbean on record. So yeah, this we said this morning that this would be a historical storm. And it's certainly living up to that. So I've got the earliest Cat 5 not located in the Gulf and Caribbean. Okay, so August 16th, that's before August 17th. And it has a lower pressure, so I go over to the weather wall, since Hurricane Andrew in 1992. So as meteorologists, when we're measuring the intensity of the storm, we look at that pressure, and it's been falling and falling. You know, the air needs to replace that air somehow toward the center of the storm, and it creates this vacuum effect. So it's really telling us about the power and the energy of the storm. And you can see Andrew 922, and I believe we're down to 915 millibars, and definitely the lowest pressure and most intense storm since Milton. Last year, and here in Tampa, we're still not over Milton, and we're still recovering. And of course, we're talking about deadly rip currents of 6 to 10 feet surf, okay? And this is for northeast Florida and southeast Georgia, so be extra careful. It's really best to stay out of the water in this type of situation. Even the best surfers, most experienced swimmers will not be able to deal with this power in the motion, and the ocean, and the motion in the ocean, that's for sure. So big three again, we've got the earliest Cat 5 not in the Gulf and the Caribbean, but the good news is we don't expect any direct landfalls. It's a Cat 5 now, could remain a Category 5 because we've got the low wind shear and the warm water temperatures about 4 degrees above average. So this could hold together as at least a 4, close to a 5, all the way into early next week. And then it'll make that turn. And it can't make that turn soon enough, all right? So that would be during the day Monday, and then we'll feel a little better once we see it turn to the north and then eventually off to the northeast. And then by then, slowly, we can even by late next week, still a formidable hurricane at Category 2. So if you're just joining us, our 2 o'clock update's in. We've got Hurricane Erin, a Category 5, a historical storm with 160 mile per hour winds, and it continues to we expect it to continue to split the difference between Bermuda and the United States, and expected to stay over the open ocean. So that's some good news. And of course, we'll continue to watch that track. And until we can officially give the all clear, which probably will be early next week, we got to watch out for those big coastal impacts, including those rip currents, deadly sea surf, and elevated tides, and watching those rough seas for sure. So here in the Weather Center, I want to thank Robert Speta as we wrap up our 2 o'clock update here. And of course, we'll be back tomorrow, okay? Tropics continue to hop.